Welcome. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We have a decent sized agenda and a lot of updates. First on the agenda, I want to introduce our Superintendent, Leah Snyder, who has some updates for you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Karen. I just wanted to stop by. I'll keep my portion brief because I know you do have a lengthy agenda, but I am happy to answer any questions once I provide the update. I wanted to let everybody know that the Hamilton County Tax Levy Review Committee provided an annual report to the county commissioners yesterday at their regular meeting. Um, as part of our last tax levy review process, they had decided that they wanted to review our information on an annual basis because although we had a large cash balance, we knew that the federal funding related to COVID was ending and our numbers were increasing at the same time. And so they wanted to be able to monitor that development very closely, along with the rate increase. And so they have been doing annual reviews. We reported to them in April. I think that I had shared some information out about that time. And then the Tax Levy Review Committee did their review and analysis and talked to the commissioners. What their report says, and I'm sure at some point that will be available online, but is that our service quality remains strong. The services are recognized as being very valued and important within the community, but our deficit to be able to maintain and provide services is growing quickly. And that is due to those factors that we've talked a lot about, the rate increase, number of people needing services, and the end of the federal funding through the pandemic. And so they are recommending that the county commissioners consider starting our levy process in 2028. Our current levy cycle actually runs through 29. So typically we would be running in 29. Because of these changes, they're recommending that we would start the process in 28 to be on the ballot in November of 2028. Um, just a reminder, the Tax Levy Review Committee does make recommendations to the commissioners, but ultimately any levy decisions in terms of going on the ballot, what the millage looks like, all of those things are decided by the commissioners. So none of this is set in stone, but it is what is being recommended by the Tax Levy Review Committee. We think that this is the option that we think is best as well. And we are now moving forward with the intent that that is the most likely outcome. And that's how we're budgeting, that's how we're making decisions. I will say that even getting through 2028 is going to be a challenge. We'll continue to keep everybody updated. We've already done work internally to reduce cost wherever possible, and we'll continue that work. We are doing our best to minimize any impact to services. I will say the fact that we started last year with some savings and reductions. All of that is designed so that we're not making drastic, significant reductions later on, because the more we can change earlier, that has a compounding effect. So if we can make a change to our process that saves $2 million, that's $2 million in 1 year, but over the course of a 5-year levy cycle, that's $10 million. And so that's why we forecast out on a lengthy projection. And that's the work that we're doing now to try to keep us as stable and secure as possible and maintain services for people. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think overall what I would say is it was good news. The Tax Levy Review Committee acknowledges that the work's important, that it's managed well, that a lot of the factors that are increasing cost are outside of the control of the county board or other providers within the system. And they know that this is just really the cost of doing business. One other important thing that I know I've shared with you, but I feel like I have to say it every time just so everybody keeps this fresh in their mind. We are still operating on the same level of levy revenue as we were in 2010. And so I think that alone is an accomplishment that has taken all of you, all of us, to be able to maintain that. So in 2010, our levy revenue brought in $79 million. This year, we're projected to get $79 million in levy revenue. I do think there is sort of this thought from many people in the community that when property taxes go up, that all agencies automatically get increases, but that depends on the type of levy. And with our type of levy, we are not getting increases when property taxes go up. The only way we get an increase is if we go back to voters and ask for an increase. So that's probably the most important information that I would want everybody on this group to know. And again, the fact that we're aiming for November 2028 for a levy. Things could change. That's not set in stone, but that does look like the most likely outcome at this point. So are there any questions I can answer for anyone? All right. Well, that was the update that I wanted to provide. I also, just because I have the opportunity and I don't always have the opportunity to see everybody and talk to you all at once, just want to say thank you so much for all your work that you do day in, day out. Of course, you guys are critical partners and, make contributions every day to support people with disabilities across Hamilton County. So I just want to express my gratitude and thanks to all of you and look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate it. Before we move forward with the agenda, I did want to introduce, we have a new person from HCDDS that is on with us today. It's Kara Frederick. She is joining us from Butler County. She is our new record supervisor, so she will oversee the admins that archive our documents and also mail out all the OISPs and process them on your end. And Kara, if you see behind her, she's actually working in the cafeteria at our new Hamilton County Central Campus. In the newsletter, you probably saw that we do have social stories out and for you to share with individuals that you support that may struggle during going to a new building. We know it's a little bit a different process to get in. You have to go through security. We're on the 4th floor. There's a longer walk to get in. So it walks through all that. As a reminder, we don't have a hard move-in date, so it is by appointment only to visit the new location. We have a little tent up on the 1st floor that you can check in for appointments, and we will escort you up to our temporary space if you have a meeting. Has anybody been to the new location? It's quite lovely. All right. A few other local updates. We have a busy week next week. The first event that we have that we'd like to invite you to is our provider networking event, which is on June 10th, a Wednesday, from 4 to 6 p.m. I think the flyer originally said Thursday. We are meeting on Wednesday, June 10th, 4 to 6 at MadTree. So we hope that you guys will be able to join us, just be able to talk, process through everything that's going on, struggles, successes. It's just sort of a fun get together that's pretty informal. So anytime you can stop by, we would welcome you to join us. No RSVP needed, just pop on in. The other big event that we have next week is our memorial service. This actually is our third or fourth, is it third annual, Don? We are at a new location. We're at the Nathaniel Green Lodge at Veterans Park. It's just a really nice event for people to get together to remember those they've lost. It's been a very successful event that came out of a recommendation from a few providers that basically said, we don't do well when we lose people in our system and we need to do better. And you as a county board need to do better to help us through the process. So this is one of the things that we do as a result of that. It's just a really nice event. This one, we do request that you RSVP just so we make sure we have enough space and seating. I'm going to put the RSVP information in there. This is Friday, June 12th at 10:30 a.m. And I'll put a link to the flyer as well. For those of you that do operate ADA programs, we welcome you to bring a large group or a group if that works for you that day. Anything else anyone wants to add? Anybody that's been there before wants to share anything? All right. We hope to see you there. It's inside this year, so rain or shine, we'll be there. Jen, I think you are up next to share some waiver um, rule updates.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's a quiet group this morning. Nobody's rowdy. I need somebody to be rowdy. Jamie, I know you're on here. I always can count on you to be rowdy. All
I
right,
need it too.
I've got a very brief PowerPoint. I will say that the July 2026 waiver rule changes that are coming are not as significant as we've seen in past, which if you're like me, I'm like, thank you. We could use a little bit of a rest. We don't need everything changing constantly. So I do have a PowerPoint prepared, a summary, and we'll have time for questions. So let me get it pulled up here. Jamie's yelling with the mute on. Okay, thanks, Jamie. Appreciate you. All right, I'm trying to share. My computer's not cooperating. Here we go. Okay. Oh, goodness. Of course, it's on the wrong slide. Hang on. My computer's feeling like me this morning. All right. Karen, I'm showing the wrong version, right? I got swap screens.
Yes, you need to swap.
Thank you. Always hard for me to tell. Thank you for that. Okay, as a reminder, all of these are pending, meaning until CMS approves it, these aren't actually going to be effective, but if approved, they will be effective July 1. Look for DOD's communication on that approval. It likes to come in at the 11th hour if you're not familiar. All right, here's the things we're going to cover. And again, these will be brief. There's not a ton to say on each one, so I don't feel like there's a lot. Talk a little about community integrated services, some provider training requirements, which I want to highlight for you all because they definitely will impact those of you who do adult day. Talk about the updated rule for environmental accessibility adaptations, which we fondly know as home mods. There are some changes in the rule on remote support related to billing, just some terminology changes on self, and then I want to talk to you a little bit about where we are with the NRI and how you might be hearing about it moving forward. All right, new definitions. So this is interesting. I think that this is a concerted effort to deal with some, I guess, confusion maybe and misapplication of the definition of a community integrated service. So when you're providing community integrated adult day services, whether that's vocab or adult day support, there is a new definition for what it means to be community integrated. So you want to pay close attention to that if you're providing those services to make sure that you're still in line with that before you ask for that authorization. So we need to make sure for our purposes, our SSAs are being trained in this in July or in June, sorry, for the July implementation so that they're aware and they may be asking you questions about some of your services and that you're providing to make sure that the new definition is met before they're doing their authorizations. So what does the new definition look like? Here are the 4 qualifying criteria when you break down that rule. So equal opportunity, just basically that people are getting the same opportunity as everyone else to be out there in their community. I think that's pretty in line with what we've had. That's not really much of a change. The second one's also been in there, maybe some new wording, but the fair wages and benefits. So if it's an employment service, is the person able to be paid? Are they being paid and offered the same benefits as their non-disabled counterparts? Open to the public. I'm not sure that this was in the old rule, and I apologize. I probably should have looked at the old one just to point out the differences, but it very much is clear in this rule that if you're providing a community integrated service as far as the day programming, that it has to be someplace that is open to the public. So it can't be an isolated location that is not open to the public. So they're very clear about that in this rule. I think it was a little less clear in the prior version. And then community access, again, people can't be just in that location. They need to be out and about in the community, which is very similar to what we had before. I think there may just be some tweaks in that language. So suggestion for providers here, just make sure you're looking at your current practices, look at your programming, make sure that if you are asking for us to authorize your service as community integrated, that the criteria are met. I mentioned there's some new requirements that I want to highlight for you as far as your adult day support services for DSP training requirements. So it expands what the mandatory requirements for your DSPs are, and it specifically calls out that you have to have policies and procedures around these 3 items and that you have to train your DSPs on it. So about full participation in community, which is very much linked to the community integrated stuff we just talked about. Person-centered activity planning. They gave a definition there that they want you to have a policy around this and to train your DSPs before they start working with folks. And then around rights and dignity. That's always been in our training requirement, so I'm sort of surprised that that's just now being added, but that has to be a policy you have and you have to train your staff on that policy. Okay, those are the highlights for that. Any questions on Adult Day that I may or may not be able to answer, but we'll try before I move to the next section? I know we do have some day providers on here. Okay, if you think of something later, you can always reach out to one of us, Karen or myself, and we can answer it or get it answered for you. Someone just unmute.
Yeah, I was about to.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi, there was something that said on the previous slide that said open to the public.
Yes.
The setting must be open to the public and follow standard industry practices, including operating on weekends or early or late hours. So,
As applicable for that business type.
got it.
I
Okay.
read that too, and I was like, "What?" And then I kept reading it. It says as applicable. So if it's something that wouldn't be open to the public, if it was just a general business, then it wouldn't need to be.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, shifting gears. I think this one probably affects us more than you, but I wanted you to be aware of it because we're still seeking some clarification around this, and we are a little concerned this may slow us down in terms of completing needed home modifications for folks. So without getting too far in the weeds for you, but I want to summarize what's going on. So this rule is being adapted to require an in-person assessment that's completed at the person's home before we can authorize a home modification, and that it has to be done by what they're describing as a qualified professional. And in parentheses in the rule, it says, i.e. OT or PT. What we have not been able to get is a clarification around what else might qualify. And the reason that's important is that we always do send somebody out to a person's home. I don't see where you can do a home mod without doing an in-person visit, but many of our staff that do this are not therapists. We do have one staff that is a therapist on our home mod team, but we have so many mods that we could not possibly send him out for every one of them. If we do, we're going to be slowed down significantly. So we're still seeking some clarification around that. We're hopeful that we can continue to use our other staff who are well-versed in home modifications and very experienced, and only use our therapists when we need to, but we are still waiting some clarification around that. We also were told that Medicaid would pay for this. And so if anybody, I think some of you know Josh Schvarda, he's our home modification manager. I gave him a task. It wasn't a very fun one. I had to call every single agency that was listed in the Medicaid provider list for our area that says they do OT and PT. And unfortunately, not a single one said they can bill Medicaid, can or will bill Medicaid for that. They said they could do an assessment if they, excuse me, serve the person as an ongoing patient for OT or PT, a couple of them, but most just said no. So we have relayed this information to the department. We're hopeful we could get some more guidance or some more resources from them, but we'll keep sharing information as we know it. But I just wanted you to know it could potentially slow us down. We're hoping not, because it's really important for folks, right, to make sure that their homes are accessible. So we'll do our very best to navigate this, but I wanted to let everybody know this is coming. This one, I have not looked through the list to see who all's on here, so I don't know if any of our remote support providers are with us this morning, but it will also affect those of you who do HPC as paid backup for remote support. So for background, those who maybe haven't been involved in the service, or just as a reminder for all of us, remote support since its inception, in addition to our waiver package, has been set up so that if there is paid backup, we have to authorize the HPC provider as the remote support provider. So the service we authorize is remote support with paid backup, but it is that HPC provider that's going to come in when needed for paid backup that gets authorized. It's always felt a little strange to all of us, right? Because then what happens is that provider enters into a contractual agreement with the remote support provider, and then they pay them the portion of the rate to provide the actual remote support. It's always felt a little backward. Many of us, I know many of you on here, have also raised concerns about that. There's been a lot of problems with that structure. So what we have coming, if approved, in the July 1 rule change for this service is an option for the HPC or PD-HPC provider to have the right of refusal to act as the biller. And when that occurs, it would flip-flop. So we would authorize then the remote support provider. So we would authorize, for example, THS remote supports as remote support with paid backup. They then would contract with name your provider, OVRS, whomever, who does the HPC paid backup. So it's flip-flopping that contractual arrangement. I think that's gonna be a little confusing for our staff. Again, we'll be training our SSAs in June about this. And we'll be working with you all if there are changes to be made. I have not talked to any of our providers that are currently authorized to see if they would be interested in switching this. If you are a provider that's currently the one authorized as the biller and you are interested in a switch, if you could reach out to me, I'd like to kind of work together with you and the remote support provider to guide our SSAs if we do need to make a significant number of changes. Any questions on that? All right. This is a super easy one. I'm not real sure what's behind this. I think it's just a shift in philosophy, and they're changing throughout several rules, particularly the self-waiver rule, the terminology shifting from participant-directed to self-directed. Everything else remains the same. The whole premise is the same. They're just changing terminology. Just wanted to point that out for you. I will say at this point, there is no proposed rule to change participant-directed goods and services. So that will remain as participant-directed goods and services. Could see a change in the future, but as of now, there isn't anything pending on that. Any questions about that? It's a pretty easy one. All right. Well, since we're here together today, I thought I would update you all on the InterRI and where we are. If you don't know, the InterRI is a new assessment tool that DoDD has launched that will eventually take the place of the DDP and the AAI. They will run at the same time for quite some time, so we are continuing with the DDP and AAI as required until then. But we have begun completing our InterRI assessments. Those assessments are not completed within my department. The DDP and AAI are completed by our SSAs. In our county, our InterRIs are completed by our assessment team that's housed in our Introduction and Eligibility department. So they have already done, well, not finished, but we're in the middle of what we've been calling phase 1, which was a random sample that was provided to us by the department. So they're completing those InterRIs for those folks that started in May and will run through the end of June. In July is when phase 2 is set to begin. And phase 2 is a big one. It will include everyone that's living in a congregate setting, meaning anyone where there are 2 or more people getting services together in the same location, residential services, and also will include everyone who is getting shared living. So just wanted to alert you as providers, because if you may be getting the calls for scheduling, if you're in the home, you may be hearing about this. So that is coming. For us, it's well over 800 people in phase 2. So it's going to be quite the challenge to get those completed. They're asking for them to be completed by the end of the year. So we'll do our very best to navigate that, but there are quite a few of those for us. So I just want to provide that update. Any questions on the InterRI? Well, I should say questions about the implementation here of the InterRI. I can't answer all InterRI questions, but I think we all have those. All right. I think all I have is my summary. Let me get on my next slide. My computer's not working. There we go. All right, so those are just our key takeaways. I don't think we need to go over those. We just kind of went through everything, but we will provide this PowerPoint for you. I'll give it to Karen to get sent out with she usually sends it out with a newsletter, right, Karen, or post it. How do you usually send it? I forget, I'm sorry.
I'll post it when I post the YouTube recording of the Zoom, and we can also send it out with the July. Oh, July sounds so late in summer. Yeah. July provider newsletter.
All right. So the other thing I said I was going to talk about while I was here this morning is where we are with the transition to the new MSS. So most of you, I think, probably know by now, I think we've talked about it here before. The state has stood up a new MSS, not to be confused with legacy MSS, which is what the old system is now called, and the new one is new MSS, very creative naming. So we have to move everyone that we serve that's on a waiver over from legacy MSS to new MSS. We are well along the way. I'm looking at my number. I got an update this morning from Nancy. So we have moved 1,104 people over as of this morning. So they are hard at work getting folks moved over. It's a very manual process. They also have to continue to authorize services through 630 in the legacy. So it's a lot of work for your funding specialists. So give them a thank you if you interact with them at all. But a reason I also wanted to bring it up today is that the next phase of that work involves moving people in congregate settings, so MRC sites, over into the new MSS. And it will not be built and ready to go until the 3rd week of June. So I wanted to alert you that our 7-1 spans for people in congregate settings are not going to be in there as of 7-1 because there's no way we can get them in within a week. We're going to get through them as quickly as we can, but there is going to be a very slight delay. We are authorizing overtime. Our funding specialists are moving as fast as they can, but they can't move those folks until the system is built. So as soon as it's ready, we will get on it, do our best to get through. If you do experience any problems, please reach out to Nancy or myself, let us know. But I want to alert you that we are going to have a slight delay when it comes to that because of the fact that it's not ready. Any questions about the new MSS? Not used to such a quiet group. Everyone's still asleep this morning. Well, thank you for your time. I think that's all I had, Karen, unless I missed something you wanted me to cover.
No, I think that's great.
All right.
I wanted to add a few things regarding sort of the large changes that we're getting pretty quickly regarding the Ohio Medicaid system and Governor DeWine's plan to fight fraud, waste, and abuse. So we feel we are getting changes really, really quickly, and they're impacted same day. So I just want to let you know, we feel sort of the ping-ponging as well as I'm sure you do of trying to keep up and understand what's going on and how it impacts everyone. There are two things that I want to cover today that I think are probably already on your radar. In mid-June or mid-May, the moratorium came out regarding new provider enrollment, which is paused through the end of November. So any applications that were in process for new providers were denied and shut down. How that impacts you as existing providers, you can still add new services. The one thing I do want to keep on your radar, we cannot approve any new locations. So for ADA, if you want to open a second ADA location, we can't do the settings review to get that approved currently. Any questions about the moratorium? Other thing I shared in the provider newsletter is proposed amendments to the EVV rule, which add in GPS and additional service requirements, which include shared living. And it sounds, we are hearing that it's going to include all HPC services. So including those shared services, we don't understand how that will look or how that will work out. But I wanted to let you know that draft is in place and we're monitoring it. Public feedback can be submitted through the 4th, which is tomorrow. And I provided a link to the draft rule language in the provider newsletter. So if you want to read through that and provide comments, the information is in the provider newsletter for that. Jamie, do you want to unmute and share?
Yeah, I just put a link in there. There's going to be this is a federal meeting that's going to take place at 10 o'clock. My understanding, it's all about Ohio fraud, waste, and abuse. And yeah, I mean, I that's all I really know about it, but things are ramping up. People need to pay attention, and this is something that's happening in about half hour.
Thanks so much, Jamie. Any other questions or updates before we move on to MUI? All right, Jenny.
All right. Last but not least, hey, so good morning, everyone. I don't really have any like specific MUI updates. I do similarly, I guess, following the fraud. And I think this came out with the newsletter, just kind of wanted to remind everybody about EBT cards. Not only, are we seeing an increase in the scammers with those, it's statewide, nationwide probably. So just kind of wanted to give you, just remind you that, the cards can be locked. They did implement any like high risk transactions. They are blocking those, so that's good, but it will lock the person's card and they have to unlock it. So just, heads up if that happens. And then of course, along those same lines, just, we continue to see the ongoing, scams and things of that nature. So just wanted to, keep that on your radar, to make sure that you are doing regular reviews of people's bank accounts and things of that nature to make sure that we catch them early. A lot of times they can be reversed if they're caught early. So again, just one of the things that we're seeing a lot of recently that I just kind of wanted to bring up for you guys to keep an eye on, which everybody is doing a great job. So appreciate that. And I don't think I have any other MUI updates, but if anybody has any MUI specific questions or questions in general, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Jenny. Does anybody have anything else to share? We hope to see you all next week on Wednesday and Friday. All right. No one has anything else. We'll stay on for a few minutes just in case anyone has a specific question they want to ask. Thank you so much for joining us today.